What have you learned about technologies from the process of constructing this product? One thing we found is that reliance on technologies can often lead to failure, and this is especially prominent in our film as we needed to use a lot of technology and a lot of hardware in order to achieve the product that we wanted to achieve. This meant we needed to plan for hardware and software shortcomings so that we had a workaround if something didn't go as planned, and a good example of this was with our green screen. We couldn't find a proper green screen mount, so we had to improvise and make sure that we had a way of effectively using the green screen resources that we had so that we can get a good looking final product.
We also felt it a lot easier in our film to plan for the worst, because then when the worst inevitably happened, we were then prepared for it. So we'd always have extra gels for the lights, extra lights, and more SD cards so that if anything ceased to work, that we always had a backup.
A really good example of this is when, during post, we had an Apple Mac computer completely fail on us, which could have resulted in us completely losing our work. However, luckily we had the foresight to back up our work onto an external hard drive, which allowed us to continue on like nothing ever happened.
I also feel like we've learned a lot about just Final Cut Pro in general and just computing in general. And Final Cut Pro we weren't really that familiar with when we started this project, and now we've been able to create this film, which in terms of editing has been really complicated for us, I feel, because we've had so much green screen and so much colour correction and chroma keying and a lot of sound. I feel we've learned a lot by just using it in practice. I'll show you, we used that, which is an effects it's a transition called luminance map, which you can change the colour on. So the colour on that is white, so that it kind of bursts white in.
Luminance map essentially changes the brightness of the shot as the shot is going, so you can get nice fades in and fades out depending on the colours you choose. And we use it quite a lot throughout the film for both sudden and fairly slow, drawn-out transitions into shots. So if we wanted something to be sudden but also not too brash, we could use a transition such as luminance map to make everything flow a bit nicer.
Also, what you can see here is our use of colour corrector. So if I show you the original footage, you can see that we've cropped it, we've bumped the brightness up and made the background brighter, which gives the impression in the film of him being in this infinity and it being very bright, which, as we've said before, subverts the expectation of the horror genre. Also, I'll point out at this stage that all the music that you see, or sound that you see in the clip, was created using Apple's GarageBand, using either voice, heavily distorted, or a MIDI keyboard, also heavily distorted. So all the sounds are original. If I further the clip, you can also see that we've used text. So as you can see, it fades in and fades out again. Do you want to talk about the font?
Yeah, so we chose a font based on the feel of our film, and we can do this by just going into the settings on the text editor and changing it to match what we wanted. So we chose something that looks kind of digital, to kind of draw in that idea that he's sucked into a very digital world through his television.
So if I go further on, there you can see we use luminance map again during this burst, and every single of the flashbacks use luminance map.
This is a good example of where I said we wanted something sudden but not too drastic, because it gives a nice impression of a shock, but not. It doesn't look too tacky in the way it's done.
These we all again colour corrected, and in fact this shot is just a shot of water through a tank. So if I show you the original, footage, which is not, is that. So as you can see, we've tinted it blue, and I think the effect is really good in that instance. So as we progress, this is our first use of green screen and chroma keying. Yeah.
So the way we use this is we set up a green screen behind our character with enough lighting to make sure the color was even all the way through. And we can essentially use the chroma key to remove all instances of one color, for example green, so that it looks like our character is essentially standing in nothingness. We had to fiddle around with edge thinning, softening, and enhancements to make it look more believable. These effects are used, edge thin is used to remove any patches of green or any rough edges that may have been left by the chroma keying, and softening helps to like accentuate, well, get rid of accentuated edges and make everything look a lot more soft. And then enhance can be used to get rid of the green glow around things that have been chroma keyed.
So just to demonstrate the change that occurs, that's the original shot there, and with the chroma keying, it's that. One of our difficulties was with, especially with hair and the edges, and because I'm wearing quite a light shirt, the green reflects, and it was really hard to get rid of that without making it look like the character's kind of faded into the background, and also because hair, obviously when it's spiky, is thinner, that was also a bit of an issue. I'll just carry on playing. Okay. We'll talk about this shot. So this clip is, we really wanted a wide shot to demonstrate the vastness of the space that he's in. So we took a green screen of an actor and then cropped it down so that his full body was in it, and then created a white background and made him small, which gives this impression, which I think is one of the better shots in the film.
What's interesting about this shot is we had to animate the cropping so that he didn't walk out of the crop zone. This is because we had to film this on a high ledge, but didn't have very much space for the actor to walk around. So essentially, as the film is played, the cropping will move so that the character is never cut off. We did this by using nodes on the timeline to tell Final Cut where to move the crop lines, so that the character would always stay within the boundaries, and so it wouldn't look too cut off or as if he was like being cut by the crop.
Yeah. The voiceover, the dialogue, we added reverberation onto it to give it that feeling of a wide expanse. If I fast forward the clip, again, this is all chroma keyed. And that shot there uses slow motion when the film drops, because we wanted to make that moment more significant. Where in the original shot, it was over too quick so that you couldn't see what was falling to the ground. And this shot was probably the hardest to chroma key because there's the shadows. My shoes were really shiny. The phone had a shine on it, and also the shadows were really detailed. So this was probably, I think, the hardest to chroma key.
Yeah, the way we got around this is by using color corrector and lowering the saturation. This essentially made everything, while it was still out of shiny, it kind of took away from the color of the shot, which in a way wasn't really a problem because the shoes were black, the socks were black, and the phone was white. So there wasn't really any need for color in the shot as it was anyway.
Yeah. And we were originally going to green screen the phone screen and have that image chroma keyed onto it, but we felt that during shooting we felt that it looked quite good having the actual image on the phone. So in the end that didn't occur. And that again uses the luminance map, but this time we've given it a green tint rather than a white one. And then the music fades. In this shot, we wanted to give the impression that he was watching the television. So we wanted to create sound underneath it to give it that impression. So I actually used sound from a completely different clip, from a completely different film, and used the sound from that. It's a shot that we disregarded. So I used the background chatter of us setting up the shot and distorted it. So I added I turned down the EQ to make it sound like it was kind of the tinny noise that comes out of an old television set. And again, all these shots tended to use colour corrector because it was either too dark and you couldn't really see it.
The blue in this shot is color corrected to make it look more shiny, more like a television screen.
Yeah, and our original plan was to shoot an empty television set and have green over the screen, but in practice this didn't turn out as we planned, which is one of the things we learned from our preliminary, is that it was quite hard to achieve that shot. So in the end, as you can see, we reduced the borders of the shot and put Sony at the bottom, which initially seemed like quite a unfeasible solution where it kind of wouldn't look like at all what we wanted to achieve, but in practice I think it looks quite good as the television set.
Also, we used shots of water again here as a way of showing what's going on in the TV, but we used shots of someone's hand going through the water to suggest the idea that his hand is going through the television screen.
In this shot, we wanted to give the impression of it being a television, so we used a number of different filters. First of all, we used desaturation. We also used overdrive and bad TV, which in the name suggested to us that it could be used to create the TV effect, and it's also something we used in our preliminary. So the difference is quite large. We think it makes the clip look so much better, and that's again used when the border fades away and it's just this left. So overall, I think our film did massively rely on the use of technology. Just for the example I showed earlier where we compared the two clips, one of them is actually quite a dull clip without the colour correction and the brightness adjustment, but with it, it makes it a really interesting clip and gives exactly the impression that we wanted, which was to have the man in the white room, the feeling of eternity and the feeling of exclusion. So yeah, I think we achieved that very well. Is there anything else you'd like to add?